Now on stage, Resilience and Mental Strength with Sian, Beilock, President of Barnard College at Columbia University, Janae Marie Kroc, World Champion Powerlifter, Champion Bodybuilder, published author and US Marine, and Ericka E. Kelly, 17th Command Chief, Master Sergeant for the Air Force Reserve Command.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Sian Beilock. I'm the president of Barnard College, the college focused on empowering women associated with Columbia. And I'm so pleased today to be here with Commander Ericka Kelly and world champion Janae Kroc to talk about something that we all experience, overcoming mental challenges and resilience. So I'll start by just introducing myself, and then I'll ask our panelists to introduce themselves. And I hope to have a really good discussion about what it means to be resilient, what are the challenges we face, and get some tips for how to overcome it. So I am, in addition to being president of Barnard College, also a cognitive scientist, and I have spent my career studying why we sometimes choke under pressure, so why we perform poorly when the pressure is on. And I've been especially interested in that for women and girls, so especially in situations where we might not be expected to perform as well from the people around us, whether we're in male-dominated boardrooms or women and girls doing math and science. And so I ask questions about why we choke, and then I'm also really interested in how we can perform better. And one of the best ways, I think, to learn about resilience and performing better is to hear from women who have overcome challenges and perform at their best. So I'd love for you guys to introduce yourself and then maybe say what resilience means to you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Janae Marie Kroc. I'm a former world champion and world record holding powerlifter. Also a national level bodybuilder and cancer survivor. I'm also a pharmacist and published author and activist. And yeah, done a couple things. So. And for me, resilience means persevering in the face of adversity. And we all face adversity in our lives, and the best things in life are never easy. And often the things we think we can't do are the most important things that we do need to do.
Ericka?
Yes, I want to start from the present and then walk back a little bit. Presently, I am a criminal investigator for Homeland Security under Customs and Border Protection. So it's a pretty awesome, cool job. And I just retired from the Air Force Reserve at the highest level of not just a woman, but any enlisted in the military. And my last years were at the Pentagon. Now, thank you. Thank you. Now, this conversation is about resiliency and our stories. Well, my story is from Central America. I'm an immigrant from Guatemala and came here when I was 12 years old after being abandoned by my mother. My two brothers and I were locked in a room. My mom left, and we survived for 7 days in that room. I was 5, my brothers 4 and 3. And at the age of 12, there's an earthquake, right? So survivor of an earthquake. And my mother, that's already in the States, goes back to get us. She's a strange woman, and she brings us. So talk about trauma. And then physical abuse, sexual abuse, and being kicked out at the age of 16 in a beautiful, awesome country, which is the United States, but I was only 16. Yes.
Well, that is a true story of resilience. I'd love it for each of you to share one time that you really didn't perform up to your potential, where you maybe were ready to do something, you thought you had what it takes, and then you just weren't able to show what you know or give the kind of performance or do the kind of job you wanted to do. And I think we often don't share our failures enough, and I'd love to hear about that, maybe from some of your sports that you've participated in, and what do you do after the failure to get yourself, to pick yourself up for that next time around?
For me, high school, like for many of us, was the most difficult time in my life. It started in junior high, and I was this kid in elementary school that experienced a lot of success early on. I was very athletic, I was naturally ultra competitive, and I tried really hard at everything. And so I built a lot of confidence early on. Well, then junior high was this complete 180. We got to the point where all of a sudden clothes and shoes and all these things matter, and I came from a family that didn't have a lot of money. And so that was the first time that all this stuff started to mean a lot. And there was this race for popularity, and all of a sudden, all the friends, all the kids that I had grown up with turned on me. And so I was the kid that everyone picked on and made fun of. And then this is when my gender issues were really starting to come to the forefront as well. So there was a lot of confusion. I felt like an outsider. And it completely destroyed my self-confidence and self-esteem. And so I went from being this really confident kid to being this kid that had zero self-esteem. And then all through high school, I underachieved because of that. I stopped believing in myself, where in my younger years, I was absolutely confident in my ability to achieve everything. In high school, I didn't believe in myself at all. And even though I was a decent natural athlete, I stopped thinking about winning. I stopped thinking about doing the best, and I started trying to just do good enough. And wrestling was one of my favorite sports in high school. And if I was wrestling a kid who was like a returning all-state wrestler, I never thought about actually trying to win or beat this kid. I just didn't want to get embarrassed. So I completely changed my attitude. And like I said, I was going out there just to survive instead of trying to succeed. And it wasn't until later on in the Marine Corps, a real turning point for me was there was a powerlifting competition. And little did I know at that point that I would eventually go on 2 decades later to become #1 in the world. But at that time, the idea that I could even win a small local competition was super foreign to me. And I knew who my main competition at this small meet was. And in powerlifting is very much numbers: how much you bench, how much you squat, how much you deadlift. And so I kept adding all the numbers up, and I was in disbelief that I had a shot at winning. And as it worked out, things went very well. Came down to the very last deadlift, and I ended up doing exactly what I needed to win, and that was like a light bulb moment for me. Everything, that moment, I just thought, oh my God, I've been doing this all wrong. Why have I been thinking this way? Why have I been limiting myself? I'm capable of so much more. And then little by little, each success built on each other, and like I said, 2 decades later, I eventually achieved my ultimate goal of being the #1 in the world all time in my weight class.
That's awesome. For me, failure is a word that I was embarrassed of using. And now I embrace it. I embrace every fall. It doesn't matter if I land on my knees, on my face. I just get up, regroup, see what hand is out there to help me so I can grab onto it and get up. But my biggest, I don't want to say failure. My biggest obstacle was public speaking. Why? Accent, little, Hispanic, female, any label that you wanted to put on me, I accepted. And I believed it. Plus, I was the kid that was abandoned. So who wants me? Not my mom. Not even my mom. So my biggest failure was recent. So don't judge me. Don't judge me. I spent 32 years in the Air Force, and there's a lot of scars. On top of everything else that happened outside of the military, I've been in combat. Multiple missions, multiple deployments, and I didn't realize how much it had changed me. So I am, law enforcement. I am getting ready to do, I'm in charge of an operation. Is this being filmed? So I'm in charge of an operation. People are counting on me. And I'm on the freeway, and I see 2 Army vehicles. They're just on the freeway with me. something happened. And the next thing I know is I blink, and I am about 2 hours away from the exit. And that's the time, ladies and gentlemen in the room, that I realized that I needed help. I've been lying to myself for years and years and years. I'm good, I'm good. After all, I am, right? I am the command chief of the Air Force Reserve. I am the model, I am the example. So the hardest thing that I had to do to recover from that, because I put people in danger, is to walk through mental health. And ask for help.
Yeah, I think oftentimes it's really hard for us to think about how we're feeling ourselves. We spend so much time giving to others and leading others that to step back and to think about what it takes for us to be succeeding and for us to be happy and content in what we're doing is a whole other story. Ericka, you have gone through so many obstacles. So were you just born resilient, or is resilience a skill? How do you think about this? And how, if it's a skill, how do we get it?
So I'm a true believer that it's a skill. I refuse to think that my conditions or what's presented in front of me is going to dictate my attitude or my response to my environment. So resiliency is built. I am 55 years old, and I look back at my life, and I know that I am gifted enough to look back and realize that every single fall was for me to be in front of you today. Every single decision that I have made, every single decision that all of you have made in your life, please remember this. This is very powerful. Made us be in here, all of us. So my sense of resiliency is that I am not going to give up. And I knew that when I was 5 years old and there's a locked door and I am responsible for my 2 brothers, and I don't know if that's when it happened, but doctor, I knew that I was going to survive and I was going to succeed. And even though I was in pure poverty, no electricity, no water, dirt floor, food whenever we could find it, my dream was big. And it didn't matter how many times I fell, I was going to get up because my dream's over there and I need to get there.
Yeah. I love what you say. It's when you talk about not focusing on the failure, but actually focusing on your dream. As a psychologist and a cognitive scientist, we talk about the power of changing our mindset. We know that when we focus on performing poorly or who we've let down or why we might be feeling bad, those worries and self-doubts creep in and take over. But if we can focus on why we should succeed, we have the mental stamina, we have practiced, we know more than these people in the room, that actually changes how our brain is functioning. It helps shunt resources so that we can focus and perform at our best. And it sounds like you were doing that by not focusing on all the hardships, but focusing on your dream. Janae, I was wondering if you would tell us a little bit about the video that was posted online that really changed, I think, your life, and it wasn't your decision. And it really had an effect in terms of how you have pushed forward. And I was wondering if you could tell that story and also talk to people about what it's like to be under that scrutiny in social media and what advice you have dealing with that world that doesn't just happen to be the people who are right in front of us, but lives in a whole universe online.
Yeah. Okay. So for those of you that aren't familiar with my background, I'm transgender, and I mentioned, I was in the Marine Corps and I worked in presidential security, and then I had this success in powerlifting. So at one point in my life, I was known as almost like this ultimate alpha male type, and it was this very intense, very crazy person. And I had known since I was 5 or 6 years old that I was trans, but I was also terrified of anyone else finding out and how I would be treated if that happened. I grew up in a small rural town in a conservative community, and even at that young age, I knew that that if I was honest about who I was, that it was not going to be received well, and that I couldn't even tell my own parents. And unfortunately for me, years later, when I finally did tell my parents, my fears were basically realized. Like, they did not receive it well, and they're still working on it, and we're getting through it. I know they love me, so it'll be okay. But that was a very difficult way to grow up, and so I was terrified for so long about the consequences of me being out and what that would mean for my life and those around me. And so I have, I'll try not to get emotional here, but I have 3 teenage sons that very much mean the world to me. And I did not want them to have to deal with all of the adversity and the difficulty that I had to, and things like that, because of who I am. And so I had made the choice, after I started coming out to family and friends and slowly telling people one by one, to not come out 100% publicly. And I really wanted to. I wanted to get into activism, and there were so many things I wanted to do about educating and things like that I'm fortunate enough to be able to do now. But at that time, I was really terrified of how that was going to affect them. And I had told them at a very young age. I told them when they were 2, 4, and 6, so they had always known, and to them, that's just who I am. So they had no problem with that and are amazingly supportive. But I was afraid of, how their classmates would treat them, how their coaches might treat them, how their teachers might, treat them differently. And so I had made the decision, along with some of my close friends, to wait until my youngest graduated high school before coming 100% out. But in 2015, I was outed by a YouTube vlogger, and I'll never forget it because I was at work on a Monday morning. It was 11 a.m., and my phone just starts blowing up. And initially, it's my friends all saying, "You just got outed. It's everywhere, and it's going viral." And the thing was, like I said, I was out to my family, I was out to my close friends, and I was even out to a lot of the other elite level competitors that had become close friends of mine, some of the other sponsored athletes, some of my sponsors, and but anyone close to me that I felt I could trust, and I was slowly coming out to more and more. So I knew by doing that the risk of me being outed publicly was increasing, and I had discussed that with my sons and how we might handle it if it happened. And but when it did happen, it was it's such a magnitude greater than what I was expecting. I said my phone starts blowing up. Initially, it's my friends, and then it's TMZ, it's Inside Edition, and I'm thinking, how in the world these people get my number? But literally within 30 minutes, they're all contacting me. Everybody's wanting interviews and all this stuff, and I just thought to myself, you know what? If my story is going to be told, I want to be the one to tell it, and. And so then, the next couple months were just a whirlwind of, interviews from radio and TV and, podcasts and things like that. But it gave me a platform to start getting involved in activism and to start speaking. And it actually, it was definitely that case of the dark clouds having a silver lining. And now I'm thankful for that, and I'm thankful for that adversity that I faced that helped strengthen me. And I may not be thankful for the person who did it, because they definitely, to out anyone like that is to be very callous and not care about who you're affecting and how it's affecting, and they're doing it for YouTube views. Which is very difficult for me to understand. But I am thankful that it happened, and that it's allowed me to move on to things that I always wanted to pursue out of that adversity.
So you both have achieved so much and overcome so many obstacles. For all of us out there, when something goes wrong or we wanted to move in a particular direction and we didn't, can you give us some tips on how you stay encouraged and motivated with those ups and downs? Are there particular things you do? How do your families fit into it? Networks, communities? What do you do to make sure that you can always look at your dream and look forward rather than thinking about the failures?
So for me, I do I do many things, but the three things that I have to do: I need to eat. We forget to eat, right? I need to eat, I need to sleep, and I need to exercise. And can I tell you, ladies, a secret? Powerlifter right here. But, okay, so it was when I was young, in my 20s, and 114 weight class. Woo woo! I also do two other things. I forgive people that hurt me intentionally or not. And I also, my day, I get up every morning thinking about who am I going to help today. I put myself, after those three things, always second. And the minute you start thinking of someone else, somehow your life looks a little better, right? So that's my formula. My formula is to give value to me in order for me to have enough strength to help others.
For me, there's a couple different strategies I use. And like I mentioned earlier, my life's been one of up and down with like self-esteem and confidence and things like that. And I've seen firsthand what a great impact that had on my life and my ability to achieve things. When I believed in myself, I could achieve anything. And when I didn't, I couldn't achieve anything. Complete opposites. And after that success I mentioned earlier with that small powerlifting competition, my attitude completely changed, and one success built on another and another. And whenever I faced something that felt insurmountable, or that I wasn't sure that I could do it, I would think about it and think, well, gosh, other people have done these things. I'm a human being, they're a human being, they're not that much different than me. If they can achieve it, then so can I. I've just got to put in the work, put in the effort, believe in myself, and keep going forward. And you're not always going to have successes. You're not always going to win every day, but if you keep your head down, keep going forward, and keep believing in yourself, you will get there. And like I said, for me, as an athlete, I wasn't like a freak, gifted athlete that broke all these records early. I was in my mid-30s before I finally achieved the world record that I chased. So it took over 2 decades of competing. And I had all these injuries. I've had several surgeries. I've torn almost every major muscle group in my body. But I really, honestly, got to the point to where I believed in my ability to achieve absolutely anything that I set my mind to. And that belief, and whether or not it was absolutely true or not was irrelevant, but was relevant was that I believed it, and it enabled me to empower myself and the people around me, and allowed me to have the control of the situation and to move forward and to keep pushing towards my goals no matter what obstacles came. And I think for me that was probably the biggest thing.
That's really great. I mean, you're both talking about changing your mindset, and we know from neuroscience research that changing that mindset actually changes how the brain functions. One thing that we've looked at in our research is actually changing how you think about your sweaty palms and beating heart. When you get up to do something, if you think, oh God, this is a sign I'm going to fail, it's more likely that you will. But if you can actually remember that your heart is beating and shunting blood to your brain so you can think, just changing how you feel about these responses, that you're excited and ready to go rather than ready to fail, can actually change how you perform. The bottom line, I think, that you've both shown is how you think really matters. And if we can use that to our advantage, we really can open all doors. So thank you so much for being here. It's been fantastic to hear your stories and so empowering.
Thank you.